Good morning, folks. John Adamson with Seeking Light. Hope you're doing well today. I have no idea why I've started up my videos again. Don't know. Just an interest right now. I just dropped off my one of my older sons to meet up with a guy he works with, and they're heading off to a work site doing HVAC. Good field, lots of need. If you work hard, you can do well. So if he decides he wants to go that route, he's already got a mentor who's willing to take him on. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, why the saying at the title of the video that luxuries make one weak for all adversity or adversities. So I was watching with my family the other day the old Indian in the Cupboard movie. I don't know if you remember that. My kids recently were listening to an audio version of that book. And so they finished the book and they decided to watch the movie. And I hadn't seen it in a while. It's not very well done, and it does deviate from the book, which I didn't know, but my older daughter, who's been leading the charge in the book, was really somewhat unhappy with the rendition of the movie. But anyway, one of the things that if you're not familiar with the story, I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to make you a little bit aware of the story. There's a boy who for his birthday gets a little cupboard. And that cupboard, for whatever reason, has a magical property when coupled with a certain key. And so he gets a little Indian figurine for his birthday as well, maybe a couple inches tall. He sticks the Indian figurine in the cupboard, turns the key, and then he finds out that the Indian has come alive, albeit as a little tiny miniature human being. Anyway, in the book, the way it's portrayed is the Indian did have a real life at some point, back a few centuries actually. And he had been on basically a manly quest with his nephew. This is how it's portrayed in the movie. I don't remember how it's in the book. Anyway, he was out in the woods with his nephew, leading him on a journey to manhood. And they were hunting and fishing and camping together. And then this Indian, who was Iroquois, was going to leave his nephew. And the nephew was going to have to live on his own for a year. And when he returned, he would be welcomed as a man. So pretty cool story. It made me think of a story I'd heard not too long ago, but early on when we were forming as a nation. You know, there was a lot of contentiousness, there still is, between the United States government and what we would call First Peoples or Native Americans. And I forget which of the tribes it was, but it was one of the ones out west, had been offered by the then president to send a contingent of young men from that tribe to college. And so they were sent to the college. They dressed in more traditional American clothing. They learned in a university. They learned different languages. They learned industry. They were cultured. They became cultured, so to speak. And then these native young men went back to their tribe. Now there's a funny letter that was written. I mean, it's funny, but it's true. From the Indian chief back to the president, where he thanks the president for, the offer to educate more Indians. How that was, it was kind of him. It was very gracious. But he said, basically, we won't be sending any more because you've sent these young men back to us useless. They can no longer hunt, fish, fight. they're they're not tough. They're no longer men. Their soft lifestyle had made them useless to this tribe. And it got me thinking a lot about today, and of course the movie. Going back to the movie, The Indian in the Cupboard. The Indian is telling Omri, the little boy, Little Bear is the name of the Indian, is telling the boy Omri some of the things that he would be doing with his nephew and leaving him in the woods, like I was saying. And Omri has all of modern luxuries, at least as of the time of the book being written. And his life is relatively simple and cushy, and he's scared of the dark, and he's scared of a lot of things. And it made me realize, just it was another illustration, let's put it that way, of why we're so weak as a society today. We have people who live in the lap of luxury and have become soft to any adversity. So if we get a little bit too hot, we turn on the air conditioning. We don't just deal with it. It was back in the day before air conditioning, people just they toughed it out. It was uncomfortable. They put up with living in somewhat dirty situations. I was at our county fair the other day with my wife, walking around. They had pictures, old pictures of our community back 100 years ago. And the things that these people were doing to sustain themselves, the work they were doing, and there were real pictures that they had of these people. Their houses were relatively dark because they didn't have like a lot of illumination. That you could tell they were all hard workers. They were all thin. As I say that as I drink my slightly sugared coffee. They had adversity in their life, and they knew how to deal with adversity. I think of my grandmother, who grew up during the Great Depression, and I would visit her in the 70s and early 80s when she was living, and she would save everything. Like, I don't remember if they were called Ziploc bags at that time, but she would save her bags and she would wash out the insides. She would, no food went to waste at all. Because she had learned to live through adversity, she knew what it was like to live without luxury, and it formed her as being a pretty tough-minded lady. I mean, she was loving and gracious to her family, but she also had a tough mind. She was willing to put up with adversity. So with that said, we live in a day and age where everything, not everything, but a lot of things glorify the idea of living in luxury. Having the newest, latest, greatest thing. And that's not a good thing, is it? In some regards. Think about the spoiled brat children of wealthy and powerful individuals. We've got one very significant one in the news right now who may be taken down himself, but may also have a significant impact on Daddy, who's in a very powerful position, who really should have been influenced in the last election also, but well, you know who I'm talking about. And it's because he hasn't had a life of adversity. He's been handed everything to him. And it reflects in his character, which, if you've read anything or seen videos of him talking to people that he used or manipulated, you would see he's a very privileged and pampered child who couldn't possibly handle any adversity. And here's the thing, too. A lot of people who don't face adversity grow up to be absolute basket cases. You know, one of the things that we see very clearly outlined in the Bible is that God allows us to go through adversity to shape and mold our character for good. One, and most important, to rely on Him for our provision and for rely and trust in Him that He's got some kind of purpose and plan for what we've learned and through the adversity. Those that don't go through adversity don't learn some very key, valuable character traits like patience, for instance. I still need to learn that. So there's definitely benefit to adversity. And besides the little statement I started off with my video, the title, you've probably heard this statement before. Good times, and I might have it slightly out of order. Good times breed weak men breed difficult times breed strong men breed good times. And then it continues the cycle, as you can imagine. So it is important to always maintain some level of adversity in life. Challenges, struggles, and if you don't have any, if your life is just hunky-dory, first of all, as a Christian, that might be a warning sign that you're not living a life that honors God. Because if you're honoring God with your life, with what you do and what you say, you're going to have adversity. Because if the world hated Jesus, it's going to hate you. But if that's not necessarily the case and nothing is a struggle for you, let's say financially, well, make struggles for yourself to maybe earn more money so that you can benefit maybe others that are in need, like people that are homeless for no fault of their own, let's say, or a part of the world where those people living there are struggling because of repressive governments or whatever might be the case, or natural disaster. Adversity is useful. And so while we shouldn't necessarily pray to God, Lord, smite me with all sorts of bad things, just know that when they do come, that He's got a plan for you. And it is to make you more reliant on Him and more able to handle adversities as they come. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Hope you're doing well. Take care, and God bless.